So let's imagine we're taking a time machine to the future because we're actually going to be recording this episode before our first episode, and we're going to act like, it's the next episode. It's super confusing. But yeah, we're going to be discussing 2XKO today. So joining me, special guest, Mir, YouTube. Everyone knows Mir, right? But Mir,
I hope so.
you haven't even played the alpha test for this game, so why are you even here?
Yeah, so Riot Games decided to try out 2XKO only in certain countries that have servers in them. And which is not even the case because like some other countries that have servers in them also didn't get keys. And I guess I wasn't one of the countries that didn't get any keys, but I have looked at the footage because I was like, I might be seething a little bit, so might as well learn
Mir
about
got
this
filtered.
game.
Yeah. And we also have special guest Haps. Welcome again, Haps, to the series. How's it going?
It's going well, man. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about 2XKO.
Yes.
We played a lot of it.
Yes.
And we have some thoughts.
Yes. So Haps actually was able to play test 2XKO before all of us at Evil, which is super sick. And Haps is also my duel partner. We went through all the anger and sweat as we played online in the Battle Hub and got some dubs. So that's very interesting. So we'll get some takes on that. So, man, how are we going to start this off, guys? Let's give our initial impressions. Very briefly, guys. Extremely brief impressions. And then we're going to start narrowing down most of the criticisms that we've gone from this game and things that we like. So, my first impression, honestly, guys, when I first played this game, I wasn't really feeling it. Now, little disclaimer first. I'm not too into, like, anime fighters, but I'm into Marvel. And this felt more anime than Marvel to me. And there's a lot of changes they're making. They're breaking the rules with this game, the control scheme, and what they're doing with the tag system and the co-op and all that. And yeah, man, I was a little sour at first. I was like, And another thing too, guys, I've been covering this game for a really long time before we even saw it. And so now we're kind of lead up to the point where I'm finally playing it. I'm like, oh man. But I tried to stay open-minded, and I gave it another shot. Got more used to the controls, played with Haps, and now I'm starting to feel it. It's starting to feel more intuitive. I'm seeing what they're doing, and at the end of the day, this is an alpha test, right? And this is the most important stage where they can fix things. So yeah, Mir, who hasn't played the game, go.
Well, I think I would say the first thing about it is that it actually looked a little bit more polished than I figured it would be for an alpha. There are some things that are notably missing, visual effects and stuff that look pretty rough and whatnot, but you can tell that they've been working on this game for a very long time. I mean, we have heard of Project L ever since, I don't know, it feels like...
Bro, yeah, this game's never coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. So clearly there's been a lot of back and forth, and they do seem really interested in hearing our feedback when it comes to this. That's why they wanted to have a playtest during the alpha, because it's clear that to me that they don't quite know where to go yet. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to get people's opinions. But overall, I would say that it's more or less what I expected based on the more recent footage that we got, at least as a spectator. And there's a few things for sure that need to be ironed out. Some things are kind of confusing, and we're gonna get into those.
We'll get into that. So Haps, you're new to like Marvel style games, right? But not new to anime fighters.
Yeah, so I've never played Marvel, but I did play Dragon Ball Fighters.
Okay.
So I have some experience with tag fighters from that game.
Got it.
And so this game plays somewhat. It's not too big of a departure from that. Of course, it's a tag fighter after all. My main thought is it's very polished, to echo what you both said. And I was surprised by the defensive mechanics. I think the defensive mechanics are interesting, and I think they will become more interesting as people learn how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy to see that. The game looks beautiful.
But overall, were you feeling it, or on your first impressions? Since you played pretty early at Evil.
My first impressions, I was really excited for it. Mm-hmm. Then once I had the alpha, those feelings quickly faded because it was a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But once I got out of that slump and understood how the game worked, it became much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something that I will play long term, but I think they have a good product with a lot of potential in their hands.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too is you're not familiar with League of Legends, right?
No, I've never played League.
Okay,
I'm just
Mir
a
and I
fan of
used to
fighting
play a lot of League, so we have a lot of familiarity with the game, with the characters too. So there's an extra amount of attachment there. So yeah, let's
Yes.
get into the thick of it, guys. That was our first impressions. Now, so there has been a lot of criticism, as there should be, during an alpha test. And let's start with controls. I think that's the spiciest thing about this game, because the whole shtick of Project L before it was 2XKO was that it had one button specials, and we know this before this even Riot got involved. This was Rising Thunder. They had one button specials on cooldowns, and it was like a Street Fighter-esque game. Now, fast forward to now, the whole one button novelty has kind of worn off with modern fighters now, but we'll get more into that. So the way this game handles it is that special moves, there's not just one special move button, it's two special move buttons. And there are different directions plus special 1 or special 2. Similar to like Smash Brothers or platform fighters. But the fact that it has two special buttons is really confusing, at least for me. I had so many problems pressing the wrong special button, like pressing 2 instead of 1 or 1 instead of 2. And another thing is that when you're adding that accessibility to the game, it takes up 2 extra buttons on the controller. So I'm playing on the Xbox Series X pad. And I'm like, damn, I need my air dash button, I need my tag button, my 2 special buttons, my 3 attack face buttons, and my parry button. And there's just nothing that was comfortable for me personally. Like pressing special with my left hand, because the default controls, guys, is that the left shoulder is special 1 and the right shoulder is special 2, which sounds intuitive, but I had a lot of times pressing with my left hand, and it's just it felt really clunky at first. That's like my initial impressions of it. What do you guys think about like 2 special buttons in this game? Because that's not normal for fighting games.
I didn't have that hard of a time adapting to it. Like, it was different, but I thought it was okay in terms of, oh, I need to press this at this certain time. I found a little bit less than enjoyable is, like Vesper said, how many buttons you have to use to make this simplified
Right.
system work.
Right. Like, it's kind of
You're
funny,
adding-
right? Like, it's supposed to be accessible, but it ends up like, if you're familiar with fighting games, it makes things harder, right? It's really strange how it works.
Yeah. Exactly. It's you're adding simplicity in a certain area and removing it from another.
Mhm.
Which it's an approach, right? It's an approach. But this approach leads to a lot of input overlap problems, at least for me as a player.
Okay.
Whereas a special could be, let's say, special 1 button and down, and the super button is special 1 down down.
Yes.
And I think if their goal is to make this really accessible to newer players, that is a point where we introduce unnecessary difficulty.
Mm.
So it's a give and take. Not my cup of tea. I definitely prefer more traditional layouts, but they definitely nailed it in some senses with its accessibility.
The thing is like some characters, it doesn't feel too intuitive having 2 sets of specials, but some characters they do, where it's easy to remember. Like for example, Ilaoi, her special 2s are her special moves that summon the tentacles, and her special 1 are the specials that use them. And for Braum, a lot of his special 2s activate Unbreakable for his door, his shield, that have the ice on it. So that is kind of easy to understand, but there's some other characters like Ari, Echo uses the time, but like, I don't know if they're gonna be able to hit that with every character, and it kind of restricts them a little bit too. Mir, what do you think about this?
I think on paper it would make sense to have like different specials if they want to maintain different special buttons, that is, if they want to maintain simple inputs, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to have a large array of specials per character, right? Like you would be limited to a certain amount of specials, and it's sort of something that we see in Street Fighter 6 with modern controls, where some specials are unavailable with modern controls, and you actually have to just do them.
Yeah.
So this is probably their idea, is that they didn't want to get limited by the fact that you have you kind of like design yourself into a corner by having a single special button.
Yes.
I think something that we could see in the future, especially because of all the complaints and people asking for alternative inputs and such, is that we could see kind of like a technical mode and technical and stylish, or whatever you want to call it, classic
Mhm.
and modern, where
Yeah.
some people might prefer inputs like quarter circle forward for specials or for supers, for example, instead of the down down input, and the fact that this causes some issues with overlapping and such, right?
Yeah.
And this could be an added feature later, but the way the game is designed, obviously, is that they do think of the simple inputs as the basis for balancing, right?
Mhm.
They're going to have special moves that are DP style. And of course, since they're a single input, you have to balance around that. And the classic inputs, if they are added later, they're going to be, like an extra just for people that prefer them.
Right.
So I don't expect the design decisions to change that much based on that. Like they're gonna still maintain what they have now, and the fact that a lot of special moves are kind of like built-in steps, sort of like you like to call them rekkas, right? Where you have the first special move and then two different follow-ups later, or more than
Yeah.
two follow-ups.
Yeah.
And again, that's a way of adding um, special moves to a character that has a limited amount of ways of executing them, right? Because you cannot use motion, basically.
So
I guess to close out, I'm just slightly concerned that there's not going to be that variety of uh, kind of like nuanced special moves that you can balance with a certain input.
right,
You know,
it's
like
limited.
I just
Yeah.
don't want it to be too
Yeah.
plain
No,
when
yeah,
the game
you're
is out.
right. No, you're right. Like that's the thing. Like those are like the three main things. One is, like I said, the my main beef is like the amount of buttons that you're taking up for the accessibility that kind of makes things harder, right, for different control types.
Mhm.
The second thing is the limitation when you have only forward, back, up, down directions. It limits the specials because like every character in this game has Rekka type specials where if you press forward in special, they'll have follow up if you press special again, right? Because of the limitations, even with two special buttons. And in games like Smash Brothers, I feel like the special moves are pretty intuitive with that one button system because, for example, it's easy to understand that up in special with every character is like your ledge hop move to get closer to the ledge, right? For every character.
Right.
And your
Right, right.
neutral B is like your projectiles, and your forward is some kind of forward moving move, right? So it's very intuitive for everyone to understand. But this game, it's not like that. Like up, down, forward, it's not going to do those things for every character. It's completely different. So it makes it hard to remember what's what, right? But once again, it's just getting used to the game. Obviously, I'm just trying to think of it from a developer standpoint of view, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
and yeah, the Rekka limitation, like you said, Mir, the reason we have motions in the first place, the reason why no one's really breaking the mold on this is because when you have moves like SPDs that are like 360s, right? Or charge moves, you're able to balance them and make them more powerful around the directions themselves.
Mhm.
So when you have only directions, it's much harder to balance these specials, like you were saying,
Yeah.
Mir.
There's another thing that I guess is worth mentioning is the fact that when you have moves with canned follow-ups, right? The move that goes into either, 2, 3, whatever follow-ups that you have,
Yeah.
it kind of like locks those situations behind another move, which could be intentional to limit the amount of mental stack that is put on the player. So, like, as
Uh-huh.
in, say, for example, when Darius uses his apprehend, which is his move where he drags you in and you're forced to kind of like eat a mix up.
Yeah.
It's intended probably that he only has certain moves to follow up to that, because then you're put in kind of like a guessing situation and you know what the options are.
Yeah.
And that kind of like helps you because you cannot push block that move. I guess we can talk about that later.
Hmm.
And so it's not like, oh, I have to worry about 12 different special moves now. I only have to worry about however many does, what is it, 3, I think?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah,
overhead.
so that could be another design decision that they did intentionally, just to prevent the game from becoming too crazy, where like you call an assist and then there's
Yeah,
15
that's true,
different
man.
special moves that you need to worry about.
But Ari, Ari doing her follow up projectile, the Foxfire, and jumping towards you, and you have to jab check it. Yeah, like I said, there's some things that work out for the Rekkas, but just every character having a Rekka. Some people like the idea of like having a charge character or a character that like a grappler with like longer inputs and the core circle forwards and all that. And you were talking before too, how you were having problems with input overlap. So the supers in this game are done with down inputs. So it's down special 1 or down special 2, and the level 2s are down special 1 and 2 at the same time. But now you run into input overlap issues because, for example, Yasuo going into his stance is down special 1, and you have to cancel in and out of that stance constantly in his B&Bs. And there's a lot of moments where you'll accidentally go down special 1 to go, and when you're doing your stance, and you'll get your super by accident, and then it's GG's. And Ari is the same thing. I'm like dashing back full screen, and I have to press down 1 to summon this Foxfire projectile that goes full screen. And when I'm doing that, sometimes I'll get accidental super. So input overlapping is definitely a thing. It's like it's happened to you, Haps, even with Braum, right? So
yeah. As Braum, one of your main objectives, right, is to get the command grab. That is a big part of his game plan, and that is a down S1.
Mhm.
A lot of the times I was trying in a like high stress situation, you're trying to do the command grab.
Yeah.
And you get a super.
Yeah, you're like you're wave dashing too, and when you're wave dashing, you're pressing down dash, right? And then you have to go down S1. It's like boom, there's a high chance again accidental super, So it's like I said, I respect the whole accessibility thing. I get it, like League of Legends players are they want to get more people into fighting games. That's great, but when you try to break the mold, you run into other issues, right? So it's trying to find that it's the holy grail, dude. Trying to find this harmony of accessibility on controls, but some things are just meant to be this way for a reason with motions.
Which is just why I hope that they add a classic control option in the future.
Yeah, so that's the next thing I want to talk about is so like I said, I feel like this whole one button special thing novelty has kind of worn off, and we've had other more modern fighting games address this. Even DNF, bro. DNF, that game is crazy, okay? That game is nuts. And that game has one button specials, but you can still input the motions if you want to, right? And there's small rewards with that as well when you do input the motions. And Grand Blue, which I haven't played, Mir, but you've played, that game also has one button specials, right?
Yeah, so it was very interesting the way they used to do it in the original game was that basically every character has the 4 special moves, and using the special moves by doing the technical input, which there's the classics like DP, Corsical Forward, whatever, right? And that would give you the special move, full damage, everything. If you used the EX version of the move, which in that game is like the heavy version, it puts the move on cooldown, right? That's how the game works, and you cannot use that move for the duration of the cooldown. If you use the simple inputs, it used to put your move on a short cooldown, and then if you use the simple EX version, it put the move on a longer cooldown than EX.
Interesting.
And now with Grand Blue versus Rising, which is basically the reworked version of the game that came out recently, they actually got rid of this cooldown thing entirely. It's just the same if you do simple inputs or classic inputs, technical inputs. The difference is that if you use a simple input in neutral, it will do less damage.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's how they balance
That's the only way they change it. So actually now it's ideal to use simple inputs during combos because before you wouldn't want to do it, 1, because of the cooldown, and 2, because of the damage. Now actually you can just do that because like if you're not in neutral, it doesn't count. They do full damage.
Yeah.
So in fact, doing supers is much easier in that game because it used to be double Corsical Forward and the button for the super, but now you can use a simpler input, which is Corsical Forward and special and to get the super. And then there's even an even easier input, which is like by pressing, actually I don't even remember how you do it. It's just by pressing buttons. I think it's special, heavy, and
Jesus, sounds confusing now when you explain.
The point is that one actually gets reduced damage, but the super, if you do Corsical Forward and the input, it just actually doesn't matter. So it's pretty interesting that they went that way. And honestly, this does cause some issues, I think, because some of the technicality of combos has been, kind of like reduced. I still use my technical inputs when I can, but I do realize that sometimes it's just better to, to just use the simple inputs. And that game is not specifically designed around, like you using the simple inputs all the time. It's got some issues sometimes, but
I got a
overall, I
question though,
think
Amir.
it's a decent experiment.
In
Yeah.
high level play, do they use both the simple inputs and motions in high level play?
Yes.
That's
Ideally,
interesting.
in some cases, it's really convenient because imagine doing a DP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do a DP with a simple input. It does less damage, but you rather land the DP than not land it at all.
Right, exactly. The reason I bring this up is because I think Dragon Ball FighterZ is very interesting. Because in Dragon Ball FighterZ, that game that has the what's the flying thing called again? You fly towards the opponent.
Oh,
and you
Super Dash.
Yeah, Super
Yeah,
Dash.
Super Dash.
And it also has an auto combo system. And the auto combo system is still used in high level play because when you're mashing on the button, it repositions and raises the character higher up, and therefore you get more optimal combos. So you're mixing the auto combo and the normal combos together. I think that's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, there's a use that is not just for newer players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing too about Dragon Ball FighterZ is that game really popped off more than they thought it would. And I understand that the strength of the Dragon Ball FighterZ IP is very strong, just like the League of Legends IP. But that game actually had motions. It was simple motions though. It was restricted to just core circles and DP motions. But it was there, and the game still really popped off with that control scheme. They got rid of throws. But for the most part, they made it work, and now Street Fighter 6 with the modern control system. So like I said, my point is that I feel like the whole novelty of the one button specials they've figured ways around it now, rather than forcing people to use one button specials. Most games have access to motions, even the modern ones, for accessibility. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's definitely not anything new, and it brings up something that I've been thinking about, which is having the game be all simple inputs changes how the game is played, like the flow of the game in a way. Let's to draw an example in Street Fighter 6, whenever you're playing against a opponent using modern controls, I feel like the way in which you fight them is different than somebody who's using classic controls because you're aware that they can access all of their options very quickly.
Okay.
So
Uh-oh.
I think this becomes exaggerated when you have 4 characters on the screen and things are happening. There's a lot of options.
Perhaps
being
you're
put on the
entering a very
table.
dangerous conversation here.
So
I'm seeing where this is going.
if their goal is to make it accessible for newcomers, it's also worth thinking about how having access to all your powerful moves with a touch of a button is going to affect the pace and the aggression of the game.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
So
Now-
it's not bad or good. It's just something that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, put into account. It's going to be taken advantage of in high level play because we know for sure this game is going to be intended as a big esports game, 2XKO for sure, bro.
Right.
There's like a tournament going on right now as we're talking, so they're going to have it. So it definitely, yeah. Last thing here before we move on to the next topic on controls, Mir, you mentioned possible workaround ideas for the controls that they might be able to do. So I was thinking of having different fuses. The fuses, some of them have the one input specials, and some of the fuses don't. And then you mentioned, Mir, to make it simplify it even more by having just kind of like a technical or a / stylish kind of thing, kind of like the old Marvel games before you select your fuse. What do you think, Mir?
Yeah, I personally think that you shouldn't have that relegated to a fuse unless that fuse has some specific bonuses, for the classic inputs. But then you might get a problem of that all of a sudden becomes either useless or the best fuse, right?
Yeah.
Because depends on these bonuses. So that I personally would not like. I think it's okay to have the opportunity to basically select which control mode you prefer. And I'm okay with classic being, like slightly inferior just to have the comfort of using motion inputs, especially if you don't like, if you have serious problem with the overlapping and stuff. I think quarter-cycle forward motions and such are fast enough that you could live with that.
Yeah.
Especially because down is not so easy for a lot of people, especially if you're not on leverless or keyboard or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
actually, quarter-cycle forward might end up being faster than that. If you have quarter-cycle forward supers, it would save you a lot of headaches, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, are you in favor, Amir, of them trying to find a way to have the option of motion specials and supers? Yes or no?
Yes, I think mostly for supers. I think they can probably keep the specials as simple inputs, but maybe they can give some level of customization to what the players want, right? Because the super, you could make an argument that could be a different motion again. So
Yeah.
like maybe the specials are say quarter-cycle forward and then the super is quarter-cycle back, or just something to prevent overlap, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I was concerned about. And since it's mostly between specials and supers, that's where I would see the to apply some of that um, the more complicated inputs. Like I said, looking at Grand Blue with the simple inputs and such, I never usually accidentally get a super if I'm trying to go for a simple special. So the way they have it in that game with the simple critical forward supers, I think it's just fine.
Okay. Haps, are you in favor of them figuring out a way to have motion specials and supers? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely. Right. The goal is to, based on the design of the game, they're trying to attract as many players as possible. Why not also cater to people who've been playing fighting games for a very long time and prefer motion inputs? Something else, I just want to touch on your the fuse idea. I also agree with Mir, right? We saw just how powerful some fuses can be, and we'll talk about this later, I know. And just having one relegated to a certain input type feels like the person who selects it is getting cheated, because the fuses add an extra layer to the game.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that now, and it's what, I don't know, less than 2 weeks that people have been playing. Imagine in the future when the game is more developed, right? So missing out on that just to be able to play in a way in which you're comfortable seems like a really big sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So a different way is definitely the approach I think they should take.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk about the combo system.
Oh
This is
boy.
gonna get a little juicy. So this is another big criticism of the game, is combo length, right? And so well, first off, by the way, people have already figured out a ton of touch of death combos, which is no stranger.
As
expected, no stranger to tag fighters in general. That's gonna be a thing, especially with the handshake tag system and just the amount of crazy things you can do in this game, amount of mechanics and stuff. But my beef, it depends on the pace of the game. Actually, for me, guys, like Marvel, even Marvel 2. Marvel 2 does have tons of infinites. Every character has an infinite, but your character dies so fast anyways, it doesn't really matter. And the pace of the game is so quick that, at least for me playing like Marvel 2, it's not that big of a deal. But Marvel 3, once things got more optimized and we have like the Dante infinite, it takes way too long because the scaling has cranked up to maximum. And it's just, it takes forever. That stuff I don't like. So right now with 2XKO, the combo length does feel quite long, and Riot's already mentioned that they don't want the combo length to be long. They don't want it to feel like you're helpless, and it's frustrating for a lot of players who get hit, especially new players. And so they've already reduced it before this alpha test, but it still seems a little too long. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would say as a spectator, they definitely feel like they go on for quite a bit. It's mostly because, like you were saying, it's the pacing of the game that affects that, in the sense that the game is already relatively slow. So I think in general, slower combos, or at least, or not slower combos, I'm sorry, shorter combos, or if anything, faster combos are a little bit more interesting. But it could be that they went with the speed because of they didn't want to crank the execution too high. Like, obviously, if you make a faster combo, you have to press buttons faster. So
Yeah.
maybe they didn't want
There's a
that.
lot of hit stop in this game too, guys. Like every hit it feels like it takes so long. I don't know. What do you think, Habs?
I think they're also too long. They you just sit when an opponent starts hitting you and you know they're not going to drop, you might as well put your controller down and wait it out because it's going to take a bit. So, and I feel like the problem gets even worse with certain characters such as Ari,
Oh
where their
no.
where their combo structure is super monotonous.
What? Come on,
I-
guys. Okay, first off, Ari's my main. Even though I want to play Katarina instead, but every time I land my Ari combo, my chat spams Resident Sleeper. What's going on, Habs?
Yeah, so at least with other characters, you know, they can introduce many special moves which look different as the combo progresses. And that makes it a little bit better, even though it's still too long. But if your character is doing hit, same special move 3 times in a row, that's just not fun to play against. Fun to do, I imagine, at some point, and not fun to watch. So I
Dude,
think they definitely
yeah.
need to really hone in on that, and if they want to keep the combo length that long, that's not my cup of tea, but that's fine. But at least make them look visually appealing. And I think they can do that with characters like Yasuo, right? He's doing every single special move, going into the air, the ground. It at least is interesting to watch as you're watching the movie, right?
Yeah, actually that's a good point. Yasuo's combo's long, but he's changed it up slightly, right? Like even like in Street Fighter 6, obviously I'm a little biased, but you know, when Luke's doing his charge knuckle, he's going perfect with the medium knuckle and then perfect with the light one. It's going forward and it's going up. You know, and then he's going into the heavy, so he's doing all 3 versions of his knuckles strengths in one combo, right? But this game doesn't have strength of specials because it's one button specials. So you're gonna have a lot of that same special over and over again. Ari, you're doing her special one like 4 times in one B&B, right? Darius will be using apprehend several times in one B&B. It's gonna be like that. Like Ilau, she'll be using the tentacle, the special air special one multiple times. You're gonna have a ton of that in this game. So I don't know visually if that's appealing, but then again, we have the Marvel players, bro. It's going like foot dive when they see Doom. Everyone goes off on the same thing, the same rep over and over.
One thing I'll say though is that the combo structure in 2xKO is more simplistic than it is in Marvel. Right?
Okay.
Like, usually you don't get to see, like you were mentioning, right? In Marvel, you get to see foot dive
Foot
like
dive.
15 times in the combo, but that's
Yes.
something that you can do in Marvel that you really cannot do in 2xKO to the same extent. Like the combo structure is much less open in that sense. It's a little bit more streamlined, right? And it's probably part of the reason why part of the reason why they wanted to do it that way, so that it's easier to understand for someone who's new, right?
Yeah.
Someone that
Yeah.
doesn't know how to play fighting games might find that more intuitive. And I
Mhm.
think the hit stun deterioration plays into that. I guess we can mention that sometime later. But the point is, because the variety is not that in general, there's not much variety. I guess is a better way of saying it. Then having long combos on top of that means that you get to see the same combo every time, you know.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a little bit boring. I can see that.
Riot mentioned that Darius's B&B during their playtesting, they had to change it because everyone was doing the exact same B&B too much. And now with the Alpha Lab, everyone is really starting to understand this game, and it seems like everyone kind of does the same combo with each character now, So it's really difficult. I mean, even in Street Fighter 6, I'll admit that you're starting to see a lot of like the same kind of hit confirms and stuff. So it's difficult when things get optimal in higher level play to have that kind of combo variety. So I really don't know where I stand on it. It's more of an opinion thing, I think, when seeing the same move over and over again, whether it's hype or not. But I think you make a great point, though, Mir, on the combo complexity can also make it exciting too, whether it's the same.
At least you're looking at different movies, not always the same.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I guess to like sort of provide another example to what Mir's talking about. In Dragon Ball Fighters, right? You had Vegeta doing his fireball loops in the corner. Yeah, you could get I don't know, 10, a high number of loops with a fireball.
Numerous
And
amounts.
that was exciting to watch because it wasn't easy to do. At least
Okay.
you needed to spend some time practicing it, and then to
Guile
get it
loop?
under a high stress situation.
Did you say Guile loop? Uh-oh.
I did say guy
Oh,
loops.
no. Don't get me talking about Guile,
Um,
man. You're going to derail this.
Yeah, so that I think the problem is not inherently just doing the same move over and over that's boring. It's just like the ease of access to in which you can
You know,
do it.
that is a good point, Habs. You know, like even in Street Fighter 3, when you stun the opponent, you put them into almost like an infinite juggle state. And you have things like, you know, necro, taunting, and then looping with the low heavy, like over and over and over again. That gets people hype, right? Like, because it's not something that's
It
easy to
creates
do.
an artificial free juggle state, so you get a few extra attacks in, and
Yeah.
really opens up certain combos. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Like you don't see it all the time too. So when it happens, it's crazy. So yeah, Urian looping the shoulders, charge partitioning. I guess that's actually a really good point. Is that the difficulty matters for how easy it is.
Guile
Yeah.
loop?
Guile loops, baby. Oh no.
Yeah, and they have a hard task here, right? Because the whole design of the game is making doing moves and combos more accessible. So it creates this problem. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yes.
So I don't know how they're gonna solve this, but something should change, in my opinion.
One cool thing with the combo system in this game, though, is because of the handshake system. So this game kind of works like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, where whenever you use an assist, you can switch to that assist in real time, tag out to them in real time at any point they're on the screen, even to the last frame till they vanish and disappear. So it allows for a lot of interesting, unique conversions, and you can even launch tag in this game. If you press tag, your character will do their launcher and then tag to their teammates. So, and that kind of resets the hit stun deterioration a little bit, and it allows you to convert even further. And thus, we get touch of death combos because of that. But that adds some variety to the game, and even there's the DHC fuse. Which allows you to cancel your super into your teammate's super. I find that it works really well in this game. I feel like for its combo structure too. I like that, but it's tied to a fuse though.
It's
So
interesting, at least, especially because obviously they thought of this game as play with your friend as well, right? So
Yeah.
it gives more switching around constantly. It
Yeah.
kind of makes it more interesting for both players.
Yep.
It really does. It really, really does. Another thing too is this is kind of a little bit with the control system, but with the combo system is that when you're constantly comboing the opponent and you're pressing, ABC forward special, and then sometimes forward heavy or down forward heavy, because that's the launcher in this game, down forward heavy and down heavy. Because of this simple control system, it feels like you're not really distinguishing special moves. So what I mean is, like, what's the difference between pressing forward heavy and forward special in a combo? There's nothing. Like you're just pressing a different button with it, and therefore it kind of feels like it's just another attacking button. You know what I'm saying, guys? Like, I feel like when I'm doing when you do combos, like there's moments where you gotta end in that uppercut, like Ryu OD donkey kick, and then you end with that Shoryuken, like into super, But like because of the control system, the combo system in the game just feels like I'm just pressing a bunch of directions and buttons. It doesn't feel, I don't get that oomph, when I'm execution wise. I don't know what do you guys think about that?
I mean, to be fair, that could be something that a newer player has never experienced, and so they never have the craving for it. Right?
Yeah, the craving. That's good. Weird. That's good.
I know what you feel, and I enjoy that feeling too. But I think that's us. That's an us problem.
It definitely is, bro.
A lot of people just don't care. They want to see the cool
That's a
combo,
you problem.
do a lot of damage, and keep it moving. Right. At the end of the day, whether you're doing a motion, you're pressing a button or 2 buttons or 3 buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think very opinionated, but I can see your concern.
Okay. All right. Ready to move on, guys?
Sure thing.
Okay. Now let's talk about just the visual / presentation of the game. We mentioned it a little bit at the start, but The first thing about this game that drives me crazy, like from a visual standpoint, is that when you tag to your teammate, the camera doesn't follow the character. It kind of like zooms out, and it's very disorientating. You like if you watch a match, it's hard to keep track of actually who is taking control of their character. At least at the beginning, there's times where like Haps will tag out to me, and my Ari will be so far on the edge of the screen, and the camera is like in the center, and then my Ari is like comboing the opponent, and it looks like I'm going off screen. It's so weird. I don't know if it's because it's what's that, Mir?
No, I said I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know if it's because it's in the alpha stages of the game, and maybe they'll change the camera later, or maybe it's because of just how the system works. It's a handshake, right? But man, is it disorientated. And I feel like from a spectator's point of view, watching this game at high-level tournaments, and if you don't really know this game that well, it's going to be confusing as hell. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Something else, I think that effect also increases how potent some mixes are, right? The more disorienting it is, the harder it is to block some of these crazy setups. That
Bro, we do that on purpose. We take back and forth on purpose to do that, to take advantage of that, because you don't know what there's ice and projectiles on the screen, and your handshake taking back and forth. And one of the most popular fuses is the double handshake, and it's just you're doing it on purpose to disorientate the opponent. Because what happens when you call an assist and you cross them up, now your assist on the other side, is basically you turn all these characters into puppet characters. You know, they're puppet characters because you're taking you're in front of them, and all of a sudden you tag, and they have to instantly block in the other direction. You know, it's and then you tag back, and they have to block in the other direction. And then, like I said, the camera is not following. So I don't know. I mean, some people actually find this really cool. Like, people like that. So I don't know. It's more of an opinion thing, but I think from a spectator's point of view, it's very confusing.
Something I will add.
Go ahead.
In terms of the switching back and forth, while it is true that is disorienting in terms of where you have to block, I think the game does have a generous amount of cross-up protection. So even if you're like slow in switching, oftentimes I would be slow in switching, but the game would just block for me. Whenever I'm getting hit on both sides. So it does require a certain amount of execution to get those setups and to take full advantage of that. But yeah, then you can just go high-low and it gets crazy again.
Yeah,
it's just something good,
bro. Go ahead, Mayor. Sorry.
I was gonna say the way I understood it was 4 frames of cross-up protection. That's the last information I had about that. That was all.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a little. Man, I sound like a doomer this episode. By the way, guys, I sound like the biggest. I sound like such a doomer, man. But I don't know why, bro. Okay, look, guys, look. Okay, I'm a huge Marvel fan, but I'm not a fan of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and I really don't like the whole handshake tag like thing in general, because I feel like it diminishes the assists themselves in general. And dude, playing against Mir Spencer, I'm like traumatized, bro. You're
just not like footsie.
Maybe I don't, dude. But now that they have it in this game, you know, tag with the handshake mechanic, and it's even more cracked in this game because of the fuse and the double handshake tag. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I am honestly, I guess to balance out Vesper here, I am a fan of the handshake.
Okay.
I think their goal with this game is to get you and your buddy to feel like a team and, like, you know, play together. Something about fighting games is like playing by yourself and losing is really frustrating because you only have yourself to blame. But whenever you're playing with two, it eases some of the stress. And the tag system, the handshake, really makes you feel like, oh, we both have to be on the ball. We're both like trying to mix this person up. And that's really fun. We're a team and we're doing it together.
Yeah, Habs, I 100% agree with you. Even though I sound like a doomer, you make an amazing point there. That's definitely true. But man, okay, I gotta say something positive. Look, okay, visually, the way, like, man, remember when we did that 1 hour breakdown of that 3-second clip of this game when it was first shown?
I think it was 9 seconds, but yes, I do remember.
Yeah, 9 seconds with Ari and Darius. And oh, dude, it was on the desert stage with what's his name?
Katarina and like one of the monitors in the background, if I remember correctly. For
don't mention Katarina; it breaks my heart. Where is she? Anyways, looking at the characters now, it It looks like they are taking this seriously. I feel like the characters pop on the screen. Like they look great. The visually, it still has that kind of anime feel, especially like how the League of Legends models look in game as well. But like I can't explain what makes them pop so much. It's almost like the outline of the characters or something. But they really do
they
pop.
have an outline. That's one thing.
It's a strong outline, yeah, and the stages look great too. The UI and stuff, I'm sure they're going to change, but I think it looks good. The health bars are a little confusing because when you tag, it switches the portraits only. I think I don't remember off the top of my head, but
Yeah,
that's
the
exactly
health
what
bars.
happened.
There's no animation.
And they already got the battle pass, baby, and they're gonna have tons of costumes, and the costume changes the colors of the special moves. You can see Ari right here. The foxfire around her, it's pink. It's supposed to be blue. I love that stuff, guys. I'm all about it. So there we go. I said my positive thing.
This is assuming it's not $30 at release. the
Don't tempt me,
skins,
Vesper.
that is.
Don't tempt me, Vesper. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, the character design, I guess they are borrowing from an already established IP, so that's something to keep in mind. But it looks beautiful. And something that I really like is the size difference. And it's something I liked in Dragon Ball. Characters who are supposed to be strong and big, they feel that way. They're modeled and animated in that way. I think they knocked it out of the park. In that sense, it looks very aesthetically pleasing.
Brom is huge, even though he's just a support, but he's huge. He's massive.
This is where Vesper's bias comes in.
No, actually, that is a good point.
The stages feel very well done, but also not too distracting. So I'm really a fan of that too.
They're pretty simple, which is but simple in a good way, I would say.
Yeah.
And they're lore based, unlimited lore in League of Legends.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, they could do whatever they want, and as such, they also have infinite characters to pick.
Yes, some fighting games like the camera might be a little too zoomed in or a little too zoomed out. It's different for every game, but I think it's fine. Aside from once again the camera is zooming out during the handshake tagging is a little crazy, but
there's one thing that I have to say that I like is the fact that they didn't do it like KOF 12 style, where it's like Art of Fighting, where you get close and the camera gets close, and then you get far and the camera goes far.
Killer Instinct does that too.
Insane.
Not a fan? You're not a fan?
No, it's really distracting. I
you don't want to see their nose hairs
fight work games
when you're in throw range?
Horrible. But even on a game like 2XK, I don't think it would have been good, especially if you have strong forward dashes and back dashes, and then it would be zooming in and out constantly. It's kind of rough. I'm glad that they didn't do that, so that's a positive for me.
Yeah. Anything else you guys like that on the visual presentation of the game? Like I said, I think it looks great, and it looks like they're
it's vibrant. I think it's a good thing.
It doesn't look like
to the readability.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an indie fighting game. Like it looks like they're going AAA. Like they're making an effort and they're taking this very seriously, which I like.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Next topic, the gameplay itself, the big kahuna. So another criticism, this is like one of the main criticisms too, is this game going to be too hard for casuals, for people to get to play, which is supposed to be the whole point of it, right? We've actually had some like big streamers try out this game and got skinned alive, right? Skinned alive, went on massive lose streaks. And they weren't feeling it. They were like, hey, I gave it a shot. The FGC is very welcoming, but it's not for me. And dude, the replies for it were like, bro, you just got a lab, man. Dude, FGC doesn't
that to someone. It's like, oh, you just gotta do homework to enjoy a game.
Yeah, that's what dude. The FGC is just so detached, bro. Like, not everyone likes to lab, guys. Okay, when someone goes like loses,
even people within the FGC don't like to lab some of them anyway. So like,
that's true. Or check their replays. You just gotta lab, bro. Bro, when I saw that reply, I bursted out laughing. I'm like, my God. Okay, dude. Okay, so, you're going on a huge lose streak. and you're losing all day, and you don't even get to play. And then they're like, "Hey, look, you just gotta, you gotta keep working on it and just sit in training mode for hours and practice it so you can win a match." Yeah. So the thing about this game is that they're trying to, like any other fighting game developer, is trying to find the holy grail, and that is finding a game that is insanely accessible, but also have a massive skill ceiling at the top. Right? Can it ever be achieved? Can the holy grail ever be found? And the way they've done this game is like, look, this game has a lot of mechanics, a ton, like any other tag fighter, and it's got a lot of depth with the handshaking, just like any other tag fighter. It's got everything, but the difference is that it's got one button specials and down input supers. Like that's it. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of concern about this, and Riot actually did an early feedback video before this alpha test even ended, and they mentioned, hey, we're taking this feedback, but we also want this game to have, to take there's going to be a skill gap. They don't want to give that up. They want this to be an esport game. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. Like if League of Legends players are going to find this appealing going into a game.
The really difficult thing, just like in any game that is simple to approach and hard to master, is that then the skill gap is very, very large, right? Because obviously, you can understand the basics very not effectively, efficiently. But if you do have a high skill ceiling, then someone who's good obviously is just gonna stumble over you. So the only way to normalize this would be to lower the skill ceiling, and that would be going against what they want, right?
Right.
So I don't think they can solve it at all. The best way they can do it is to have a strong matchmaking system when the game comes out. They kind of like, I don't want to say shelters the lower rank players, but, like at least have a way for them to play against people that are at the same skill level, right? Like it makes sense that in the alpha lab there's basically not a real matchmaker yet, right? You just play whoever. And if you're someone new, you just get bodied by people who are interested in playing the game and signed up for the beta because they wanted to play fighting game, and they have hundreds of hours of experience, and there's really no way around it. It's unfortunate that was the first exposure to the game for many people, right? Because again, there's really no way to prevent that.
Weird. So you're saying you love skill-based matchmaking? Knight takes rook, checkmate.
Yeah. Do you know what this is called?
What?
Ranked systems.
Whoa. Or EOMM,
That's
dude.
the point, right? Like if you have a rank that is done well, I think is not a problem. I mean, you can look at Street Fighter 6, right? Even with all the complaints about, it's easy to get master rank easy for someone who's that plays fighting games.
Yeah.
A lot of people love it because like all the people that get to master rank, then they are they start playing with the MR system, and they're completely cut off from the rest of the more casual audience, or people that are not as good that are getting to master rank. Like people that are in lower ranks are enjoying their time in the lower ranks. That's a good way of doing it, right? I guess the battle hub is the risk, but at least the game has the decency to tell you if someone's in your skill bracket when you go in the battle hub, right? So
yeah, Mir, you mentioned that it's unfortunate how the initial testing has started, but the reason is because a lot of people in the FGC got keys for this game, and they're obviously going to give their other FGC friends more keys. So there's going to be a lot of like hardcore fighting game players playing this. And there wasn't like not everyone got a key. It seemed like a lot of people did not get a key. Like it was pretty closed, right? Similar to Street Fighter 6. So the casuals that did get in, or the League of Legends players that did get in, were like, skinned alive, right? Because like I said, majority was probably FGC guys to begin with, because they're going to be the ones that are like following the game news on this very closely, and they're going to be, salivating to get their hands on this and break this game apart, right? Most of the casual fans are not going to play this until the game is actually released and advertised on, the Riot page or whatever. What do you think, Habs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add to that, if you went to Evo, you basically got like almost 100% confirmed a chance to get into the Alpha Lab. And who goes to Evo? People who are really into fighting.
Call of Duty players.
So yeah, it's just definitely, I think most of the player population in the Alpha Lab was really hardcore fighting game lovers.
Yeah.
And I I hope that what they learn from this, again, to like sort of echo what Mir's saying, is they really need a good matchmaking system. And to expand on that, I think it needs to go past just this lobby avatar thing they have going on.
Mm.
Which I realize that some people enjoy and interacting and socializing in that manner, and
Yeah.
which is great. They should definitely keep that in. That is valuable for the game. But having both options, something similar to the Street Fighter 6 system, as well as this, I think would be the perfect way to ensure that somebody who's new and just trying to learn doesn't get stumped.
Yeah.
And it
Mhm.
also, some people just wanna like two buttons and be in the matchmaking, right? Maybe you don't have all day to like walk around the lobby trying to find somebody to hop into your station.
Yeah, in case the people that listen to this don't know, the way that Alpha Labs works is it's Battle Hub only. There's no matchmaking like quick match option. You actually have to go to the Battle Hub. But you mentioned too, Haps, that it might have actually had skill-based matchmaking in the lobbies itself. Word on the
Yeah,
street.
word on the street is that the lobby itself had skill-based matchmaking. So, for example, if you went into a lobby, it tries to place you at a certain skill range,
The
and if you
sweat
play
lobby.
and you if you play and you win a lot, if you the game will ask you, "Hey, do you want to move to another lobby?"
Okay,
Or you can leave the lobby, and then once you go back into the matchmaking, it will put you in a more appropriate lobby.
I see.
Same, same
Street.
thing if you're losing a
Yeah,
lot.
Street Fighter 6 actually has the Chickadee Battle Hub lobbies. When you're new to the game, you have a new account, and that's restricted. You can't. No one else can go in there. So it's something similar. So that might help too. Another thing as well is I feel like this is really important for fighting games in general, and that Street Fighter 6 they've understood with World Tour and all that is that like not everyone who plays fighting games, like especially casuals, want to play against other people online. Like they like playing against the CPU. That's fun to them.
Right.
And playing the story mode and the arcade mode. And since this is an alpha version of the game, they don't have that. You're basically just forced into sweaty matchmaking right away. So I think that's another issue, and it makes it hard to take the baby steps in learning this game unless you can find someone who's also brand new like yourself. Because like Street Fighter 6, man, you can just play World Tour. You can just kind of turn your brain off and just play against the CPU. You don't have to. There's so much content you don't even have to do that, right? So I think for this game. Since accessibility is such a big part, I think that's very important. They figure out a way to do that. Another thing with the accessibility is that Pulse sucks. So the Pulse fuse mechanic sucks. So when you choose after you choose your characters, you choose a fuse, and it's kind of similar to an ISM system in Alpha or the Groove system in CVS2. And one of the fuses is Pulse, and what it does is it gives you an auto combo system. But it's only one auto combo per strength, and that's all it does. And when you pick this fuse, you do not have access to a ton of things the other fuse have, like double handshake and double assist and DHC and the other things that the fuses have. So it's like a very big weakness when you use this auto combo system, and the combos are they're really simple. It's ABC launcher, ABC special super. So I think that's like a big issue if that's their way of trying to get people in, because you're gonna feel like you're just missing out on too much, way too much. You're gonna be at such a disadvantage.
So we're sort of like going back to what we were talking about before, right? If you have a fuse that's directly linked to just a way to input your moves, you're at a big disadvantage. So
Yeah.
I think for that fuse, it'd be nice if you could have like three, right? Like you have the normal simple inputs, you have the motion, and then you have a sort of an auto combo control scheme
Yeah.
to play the game. Just maybe remove it as a fuse altogether, right? Just make it a different control scheme. Just like you just do auto combos with a scheme.
Adding
I
more
think Street
buttons.
Fighter has
I mean, it could just be a feature that you always have. For that
exactly.
matter,
That's what I
just make
mean.
it just like a DBZ, right? Where it's just a
Exactly.
thing in the game,
Okay.
Or
or
something
Marvel
like Street
Infinite
Fighter
for that
6,
matter.
right? Something like Street Fighter 6, you have modern, you have classic, and you have the other one which does some combos for you.
Yeah, even City of
Well,
the Wolves
Dynamic is
has it, right?
not available in competitive modes. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
City of the Wolves
But
has it too, right? The auto combo system
Oh, and
built into the
I'm
game,
not
doesn't it?
sure.
I don't know. Chat, let me
Yeah,
know
for
if it does. I'm pretty sure it does though. Has something like that.
But yeah, I mean, MVCI, as I was mentioning, does have the auto combo in the game. It
Oh,
even
I'm
tells
wrong?
you if
Really?
they're using it.
Okay.
Remember? When you use the the easy hyper combos, it says on screen, easy hyper combo.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, easy mode. And
But
oh, go ahead.
at the same time, the other side of that coin, maybe that fuse is not supposed to be strong, right? Maybe a person who's using that fuse to learn the game doesn't really care about being optimal or wants to even think about handshaking twice with a freestyle fuse.
Yeah,
Um, so perhaps that's intentional, right? Maybe it's a step towards another fuse. It's not a permanent fuse you should be using in the game
I
because
see.
the inputs
Yeah,
are
but it's
simple at the end of the day, right?
It
I
could be done
feel
in a more intuitive way though.
Yeah,
yeah, I feel
for
like
sure.
I personally don't like the idea too much of this is just a thing that you use to learn the next thing, because then it doesn't really have, like, a lot of people will want to skip that because there's this preconception of, oh, I don't need easy mode, so they're not gonna use it. And
No,
then
it's interesting, dude.
the people that don't care about learning, right? They will never use anything different, so they're missing out on a bunch of mechanics basically by always selecting that. I don't think it's a good way of doing it. Personally, I don't like it at least.
Mir, there's a weird psychology with it, you know, and even in Street Fighter 6, man, there are players out there that they're new to fighting games. They obviously don't know what they're doing, and when you see the modern, even though it's called modern, not easy controls, they're like, well, you know, I'm gonna use classic. I'm not a noob. You know what I mean? Like they'll pick classic, even though it's
Yeah.
modern is catered towards them, because they're like, oh, I want to learn the proper way. You know, there's always gonna be that weird taboo with it. So it's interesting. I just feel like compared to modern, the pulse is like a massive weakness in this case. Now for the mechanics, guys, do you feel like the mechanics are too bloated? Like there's too much? Like we got retreating guard, we got push block, right? Air dashing, we got parry, we got burst, we got wave dashing. There's a lot of stuff here. You know, there's a lot of mechanics that any tag fighter will have. And once again, this goes back to they want the game to have a huge ceiling. They want it to be deep, but at the same time, the accessibility, comes at a cost here. So, what do you guys think about that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the game is not too bloated. I think it seems bloated initially, but as you understand what each of your skills can do, what each defensive option is for,
Yeah.
it gives you more room in the end. I think towards as the game develops, it's healthier for
Okay.
the lifespan of the game. It's just it's a lot at the beginning, and that's when you have something good. Whenever you have a lot of options, and you
Okay.
don't have to use them all at the beginning either, right? Some of the defensive options sort of have overlap, like parry and push block. They have some overlap. Not as you get deeper into it, they become more specific. But
I
I
just
like
find it
the
kind of
option.
funny, man. Like this game started with the whole Rising Thunder, right? Accessible fighting games, and then they end up making this like a tag fighter. It's like one of the hardest fighting game genres, right? And it has so many mechanics. I just find it like the only thing that's accessible at this game so far is that it has one button specials and down to input supers. Like that's the only thing. Otherwise, it's like any other fighting game. And in my opinion, I don't know. What do you think, Mary?
Well, I mean, one of the big things is, again, they want you to be able to play with a friend, and I think that's the biggest reason why it is a tag fighter the way it is. It's like they really want to uh, foster a community of people helping other people. So this could be intended, especially because it's FGC. People, I'm sure the way they thought of it is, it's gonna be the FGC person that gets a friend that knows League of Legends and goes like, "Hey, you want to play 2SKO with me? It's League of Legends." It's like, "Oh, that's a cool
And
thing."
it's free.
And over time, they are taught the game, right?
Yeah.
I think they're really putting a lot of emphasis on the fact that they want the community to help the community. Basically, it's that's the reason why it's a tag fighter. Of course, though, as we mentioned before, if they want to make the game um have a high skill ceiling, that they need to have a bunch of mechanics. and also a way to not make the game, too simple to find the best meta.
Right.
You need the options.
Yeah.
And like Haps was saying, some things do have overlap, so you can kind of like when you're starting to learn the game, you go like, okay, well, if I want to spend a meter defensively, I'm going to use push block instead of some other person might say, oh, I'm more confident reacting to attacks, so I'm going to spend it on parrying, or like maybe I'm going to use my meter with my offense instead because I prefer playing that way. It's all these things. You can kind of like look at it in a um, scalable way going up, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with the combos too. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this combo that is easy and doesn't require special timing. But as I get more into the game, I can do tighter combos that even if the hit stun deterioration is kicking in, I'm more confident that I'm gonna be hitting precisely. Do difficult links on the ground, all difficult, but do links on the ground and stuff after special moves and whatnot, things like that. I think those are good choices for someone who's learning. The big issue is just whether or not a person will be overwhelmed if they're not playing with friends. 'Cause
What do you have no
obviously not
friends?
everyone's gonna be playing with
What if
friends.
you
Yeah,
have
then
no friends?
hopefully you'll be able to make friends in game with the battle hub system and stuff, right? And I'm sure that there's gonna be a lot of emphasis put into the social aspect. But at the end of the day, you cannot make people play with other people. So there's always going to be a subset of players that are not going to be, engaging in all of these discussions that we're having. So
What if
I don't know what to do then.
you're a Tryndamere main in League of Legends and teammates only hold you back from your true potential? These
Spoken
are
like a true Tryndamere main.
Yeah, but no, Habs, he brought that up. Like, that is a good point. It's like that is the equalizer here. This is what really makes the game stand out, is the co-op, and that is gonna be what is gonna get people in. Like the free to play. Hey, come check this out. I'll teach you. We can play together, and it'll alleviate a lot of the stress and pressure of learning a new fighting game. Habs. So
Yeah,
that is a great
for
point to it.
sure. It's also like it's stress aside, whenever you want to play a fighting game with a friend, you always have to fight them, right? You can never team up.
Yeah.
And that's like a limiting factor for fighting games. So, you can actually play with a friend, not against a friend.
I haven't seen like the low level play much in this game, but the high level play is actually pretty wild. It's pretty crazy. Like right now, a lot of people, like the most two popular fuses is the double handshake and double assist. The double assist gives you like touch of death, and the double handshake just makes the aggro and the pressure so crazy when you have two like coordinated high level players switching back and forth. Because before you handshake tag, you can actually buffer one last move from your point character before you handshake, and the buffer will register as you handshake. So, for example, with like Ari, I can shoot a projectile as I handshake tag my teammate who's like behind them, and then they will pressure, and that fireball still comes out. It's wild, and you can go back and forth. And another thing too is that the defensive mechanics in this game are really important. They're all used, and a lot of them cost meter. And I've already kind of reached the point in the meta of this game, even in just a week, where players are not using supers unless it's like for lethal, and most of the time you can get touch of death anyway. So everyone's saving all their super meter for the defensive mechanics. So if you block once, boom, push block, always push block, right? Or blowing up very obvious like gimmick strings like Darius double S2 where he's trying to bleed you and you can parry it, and a lot of that kind of stuff. So it is interesting kind of seeing the earliest of metas in this game, how it is. So the high level play, I think what they're trying to achieve with the high level ceiling is definitely achieved. I think they nailed that. It's a lot of fighting. I'm seeing a lot of people in the FGC are enjoying it for this skill gap. So they were succeeded in that. It really comes down to, like I said, League of Legends players playing it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a fighting game, right? So it's gonna be something completely alien to most League of Legends players. Like the inputs are completely different. The flow of the game is completely different. The player base is different. That's just gonna be. I mean, hopefully, they will have kind of like a big meta structure to the game as well,
Mhm.
where on their YouTube channel they're gonna have tutorials explaining how things work, and they're gonna have like community events where maybe I don't know some of the developers come up on stream and go like, "Hey guys, this week's episode we're gonna talk about this thing about the game," and then
Mhm.
have the official commentary of tournaments so that people that don't know anything about fighting games, they can be introduced to that game. I think that all of that is really important because at the end of the day, the game is just too different to solve itself, right? Like it needs that support.
Their communication has been amazing. They've been communicating every day, and they got like a direct line to a lot of influencers in the FGC right now.
Mhm.
So they're taking a lot of feedback. People are asking, "Hey man, I got like a wall scroll, like Elden Ring's wall scroll of text on feedback for this game. Can I write this much?" Like, just give us all you got. Like, they want everything for the surveys on this. So that's good, man. That's a good sign. This is, like I said, the most important stage of the game, where they can change it, right? If this was during the beta, it'd be a lot trickier. Okay, miscellaneous stuff, I guess. Now we can just kind of freestyle a little bit, guys. Whatever last things you guys want to talk about here. One thing that's kind of funny is that as you get better at this game and better defensively and know how to use the mechanics, and like I said, saving your meter for push block and all that instead of supers, I noticed a lot of timeouts in this game. Did you notice that too, Havs?
Yeah.
There was a lot of times where like you're running away from each other, and there's characters with some big buttons in this game. Yasuo and Darius, and it's really hard to get in because I play Ari, and there's a lot of times where like I'll finally land a hit and I'll have lethal, and then the time will run out. So many times the timer will run out, and I always go, "No fun allowed." It's the no fun allowed. Tons of timeouts, and it's really hard for the developers to anticipate, what it's gonna look like in higher level play, or when people, because as people learn a fighting game, usually defensively they get stronger all the time, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know if you noticed it, Mir, when you were spectating, if there's a lot of timeouts.
Yeah, I mean it's I think the game in general seems to be built towards preventing that from happening in the sense that they want you to play more offensive than what people ended up playing like.
Yeah.
I feel that as the game matures, the getting in is gonna be easier,
Yeah.
and maybe the timer is not gonna be such an issue.
Right.
But because the combos are long and the hit stun is long, and like everything
And
just
burst
takes
on
forever.
top of that.
Yeah, and burst. You actually don't have a lot of time. It's 2 real minutes, right? While in Marvel 3, for example, it's 99 Marvel seconds, which is about
Marvel, you make it sound
like,
so badass. Marvel seconds.
well, yeah, because they're 2 seconds and a half.
Damn. Okay.
So you have way more time, right? Like comparatively.
Yeah.
And it's true that Marvel 3 is like, 3 people, but the combos are also faster, even though they can be just as long, if not longer.
X Factor, baby.
Yeah, and the X Factor. So overall, 2 minutes for a game as low as 2xKO is not that much. So I
Mhm.
think they really were thinking about the future when it's not gonna be that big of an issue, and it still has the opportunity to happen. Because getting a timeout in Marvel 3 is like impossible, unless you're doing Dante Infinite.
Yeah, unless you're doing Dante Fizz, exactly. That's true. It's true, man. That game is so fast. So yeah, I like I said, we've mentioned before that there's touch of death combos as well, but they mentioned they're gonna want the combos to be shorter. So we'll see how it ends up. That's always something they have to tweak, and it's an easy fix too. So I guess the only other concern would be if the matches are too drawn out and long, because they do seem a little on the longer side. You might be running into like kind of like a CVS2 situation or a cross timeout where tournaments are just too long. The matches are too long, So
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
this is definitely something they can tweak over time for sure. Like this is was gonna be part of all the not reviews. I'm sorry, the surveys that are gonna be filled out. If this is considered to be an issue, ensure that they'll speed it up or
Mhm.
add more time, if anything.
mhm. Any other things you want to talk about, Haps? Miscellaneous styles? About the
Yeah,
game?
for sure. Something that's surprised me is that you have 2 rounds to win the game. Because to me, every time you kill both the point and the anchor character, it just feels like oh, okay, I won the game. But then there's another round. So I don't know, that may influence the time, right? Like if to win the game, all you have to do is kill both their characters. I understand in like games like Street Fighter, it makes sense to have several rounds, right? Because you only have one character. But here, I don't know. It felt odd to me. It's not bad. It's not good. It felt a little odd.
Okay, so
Uh,
you're the difference between one game and one round kind of thing. So
yes.
it's hybrid where on the second round your super meter does carry over between it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too, guys, because the super meter in this game it's tied to your character. So you can see at the bottom of the screen here that both the point and secondary character have their own separate super meters. So there's a meta with that as well. Where if the next round could be a little shorter because you can spend all your meter, the next hit will kill kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another weird thing. This is more to do with the lobbies. Haps is that when we were playing duel, Matt, it was really annoying to go into training mode or go into a match and assign the point character. I still don't understand how it works, but basically you have like these arcade machines in the lobby, and I think the player who has to be the point has to go on the machine first on the right or left side, and then the second player goes on the machine to be the secondary character. And it was just a little difficult. And in training mode, we had to go into a separate lobby entirely to play against each other in training mode rather than as a duel in training mode, rather than just going on the other side of the machine. It's very weird, but I'm sure they'll work it out. It was just confusing.
And we realized that we in game as the timer starts counting down, we can switch, right? We can switch several times actually. Who's the point and who's the anchor? But I don't know. If you're running long sets with somebody, doing that at the beginning of each round is tedious.
Oh, and skipping the
annoying.
intros, bro. You have to like put in a cheat.
Yeah.
You have to put in a cheat code to skip the intros. It drive me crazy, dude. It was nuts, man. Driving me nuts. You can skip it, but like you have to. It was like special 1, special 2 at the same time, but not everyone knew about it. They were trying to tweet it out and spread the word, but everyone was going nuts on skipping the intros. Holy moly! Because you got like 4 character intros before each match. It will wear you down as you're getting hit by like full screen Alawi special ones.
Yeah, if I had the choice between a system where every player has to agree to skip the intro, or a system where only if one player wants to skip it is done, I would take that one.
Mm-hmm.
If one player wants to skip it, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot, and so like sometimes people even forget to skip the intro.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that really annoyed me a little bit is the win screen. In a lot of games, as soon as you win the game, you can skip the cutscene and go back into a rematch. But here, there was a few seconds where you couldn't do anything. You just had to sit there and watch your character say whatever they're gonna say or do whatever they're gonna do.
So same thing, yeah.
Same thing. Let's like get us to the game as fast as possible, right?
That's
we want to keep playing.
We're kind of spoiled with Street Fighter 6 because Street Fighter 6 is like, bam! The rematch is so instant, dude. When you're watching tournaments, sometimes, like, even the cameraman, when they're going on the commentators, the match will start before they can even get back to the game screen because it's instant rematch, right? So, I think it's really important for tournaments in this game. Yeah. Really important they look at that. Presentation's important, don't get me wrong. And another thing, too, is I love, like, Tekken 8's they got these little reels between each round mirror where like the camera will zoom around and show you what the stage looks like. I love that stuff. It's not too long, but I love that in the presentation. But they gotta have to find a balance for sure.
It's also better for casuals if they have the ability to skip it, right?
Because
let's say you just got beat up,
skinned alive,
that you lost, and all you want to do is get your revenge.
Yeah.
Right. And having to sit there and watch your opponent's character like sort of say their quippy line, it's not gonna fly over well with everybody.
Better luck next time.
Building character right there. Yeah. But no, I get exactly what you mean. I think in general there's they have an idea about that because they want it to be how can I put this? It's like that's sort of the charm of the game to have these intros and stuff, and even the fact that you can select kind of like a pose during the intro, like before the round starts, right? That is obviously something that they thought already, and this is an alpha. That's probably the last thing they would have added to a game. So I think there's probably gonna be maybe there was an idea of oh maybe you want to strategize with your teammate. It gives you some extra time. You know, you'll just let the intros rock. But obviously this is asymmetric, right? Because then the other team doesn't know what you're doing, and maybe it just thinks that you know you're just an asshole.
You can't say that. The camera just zooms in on Timo doing the salute. Super salty. Get poisoned.
But yeah,
I've got the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mir.
No, I was gonna say I think this is for sure something that they wanted to do. That like made it difficult to skip in the alpha because they wanted to show off what they already had.
Yeah, I mean,
honest,
this
it
is Sky's
feels that
Blue
way.
stuff. Like, obviously, they're going to you know, to fix a lot of this. It is an alpha build. I forgot to talk about the netcode. Hey, so the netcode is interesting in this game. Obviously, it's rollback netcode, but it's actually server based, not peer to peer, and that's one of the reasons why Mir were you were not allowed. in this alpha. It's one of the reasons because since it's server based, since Mir is far from the servers, it would be too laggy for players to play against Mir. Mir would be lagging everyone out with his guile, right?
Far you say, but France is like around the corner.
Okay, look, that's not important here.
There's nations that I'm pretty sure have servers.
Yeah.
Like Germany that weren't in the test. So maybe they were just trying some of them this time. And maybe the next time they're gonna just add some of the others, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just hope that I get that I get a key next time. But
Right.
the point is when it comes to Europe and when it comes to Southeast Asia, I would say they're kind of like all close together that you really don't suffer from high latency even if you're in a different country. In fact, you could honestly have higher latency cross country, like the same country, than one country to the other, right? Like if you live on one of the France's corners and you try to connect with someone on the other corner, you know, like maybe that person would have a better connection with someone in Germany, like going across, you know, Belgium and the Netherlands, just because that ends up being closer. So
Yeah.
that was a curious decision, but I mean that's what they decided to do. I have to respect it for sure.
Yeah,
but I'm curious to see just how much they will stick with this server-based system, just because of well, I mean, not every country has servers, right? Especially like in Africa, I think there's a problem with those.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, League of Legends would obviously have lots of servers worldwide, so I don't know how it's gonna work. I'm not.
Because I know that they use Riot official servers, right? So like, I know when I was playing with some people there, like in Chicago, we were playing Valorant. They had one ping, so.
Ooh, they were like under your bed.
Yeah, they were in there. They were in the server room. So
they're in that ass.
The problem is, if you are playing against these people, right?
Yeah.
And they are next to the server, and you're not that next to the server, then you get all the bad latency, and they don't get any of it. So I'm curious how that's gonna be fair, right?
I've actually had a lot of very rollbacky laggy matches, which actually surprised me. Now I have 100% faith, dude. The Cannon brothers, I mean, they created, you know, the GGPO. Like I'm confident it's going to be good, but there are a lot, especially when we're playing. It's really important because it's going to be 4 players in a lot of matches, right? 2v2, and there's a lot of matches that Haps and I played where. One of the players was like, you could tell their ping was way higher, you know, and so it was, and even sometimes you can't tell if someone's on Wi-Fi either. It won't tell you. So there were some matches where it was pretty blatant. I was like, man, and it was pretty rough. So I was actually very surprised by that. So that's obviously an extremely important thing for fighting games. Especially in a game like this where there's like a lot of hit stop. It seems more rollbacky than normal, Mir. I don't know if you've seen it. But
yes, from what I understand and what I was told about how the game feels and everything, it appears to me that there's no delay implemented into the 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 rollback netcode. It's just rollback, which it would be in a way similar to how Street Fighter V used to be before they made that famous change after the netcode controversy. And what that means is that the moment you have a little bit of latency, right, that it's not quite the perfect connection, and all of a sudden it becomes really rollbacky. And another thing that compounds on this and makes it worse is there's no transitional animations yet. I'm gonna say yet because I hope that they're gonna add them.
Mhm.
But a good example would be if you with your character, like even on screen right now, if you move forward and then you move back, the animation instantly changes one frame to the other, right? And that looks jarring when it's roll backing, right?
Oh,
Because
I understand what you're saying.
the position of the character is
Yeah.
changes drastically in the span of a frame. So if there's just a couple of frames of rollback, you could see the
Like
character
when you
kind of like
crouch too,
teleporting
it's
around.
instantly down and up. It's not like moving.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
see
if
what
you
you're
look
saying.
at Street Fighter 6, for example, compared to Street Fighter 5, of course the netcode is much better, but on top of that, they added a lot of transitional animations, right? If you use Turbo in Street Fighter 5 to crouch really fast, you would see the character crouch and go and stand up
Yeah.
basically immediately. But if you do that in Street Fighter 6, it actually barely does anything, which is interesting because that means that they thought of this, right? So I'd expect the 2xKO developers to add them later because, especially if they want to keep the netcode as is.
Right.
It's a fundamental change that they have to do. But yeah, I think that compounds on this rollbackiness that a lot of people have complained about.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing too is that when the match becomes really rollbacky and laggy, I feel like, especially when I'm playing Ari, because my combos are really long, I feel like my inputs are dropping. And I started mentioning the chat was making fun of me, like saying I was making excuses and stuff. I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, I am pressing this button. But word on the street is apparently like other people have mentioned as well, right? Haps, like, please tell me I'm not the only one that has noticed inputs dropping.
It's definitely a common complaint, for sure.
The
It happened to
OS
me
key.
in game. It definitely feels when the opponent's like
Come on.
a little bit laggy, your buttons sometimes just completely disappear.
Come on, guys.
So
That'd be a
hopefully-
serious thing if that's like you do not want input dropping. That is very serious. So I at the same time I don't want it to just be me, but I don't want it to happen at all. So this is just me making excuses. I'm telling you, man. So many times my air dash heavy, man, it feels like it got dropped during my B&B. It drives me crazy, absolutely crazy. But yeah, once again, I'm totally confident they'll get it figured out because this will be one of the main things of the game is netcode.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I guess the last thing I want to talk about is the game's roster size and launch, right? Because there's some concerns on that. So they mentioned that I forgot the exact like PR wording they used about the game's launch roster. Do you guys remember what they said? There's gonna be a little lean, very lean.
Lean, right?
Yeah, lean. And in PR language, to me, that sounds like they're only going to have about 2 more characters. I'm guessing they're going to have 8 characters on launch. That's what's giving. Huh? I think 8. I'm guessing 8. It's probably going to be Jinx and Katarina.
But it's 2025 launch window, right? And the game right now it's an alpha. I feel like they have a year before this game comes out.
Okay.
So I'm going to say at least 12.
I'm going to say 10 tops. Haps, where you at? Remember, Katarina is confirmed to not be on launch too. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Kitsune.
Mm-hmm. So I think 12 to 14.
12 to 14. 12 to 14.
Well, I'm under the assumption that they're working on other characters that we just don't know about at the moment, right? Like they're mostly done, but they weren't ready.
They can't get Katarina out on launch, Haps, and we've already seen her.
But definitely more than 8, for sure. 8 is
bro, it's all hands on deck to get Jinx done. It's all hands on deck. They have to get Jinx on launch. It's like she's gonna be by far the most popular. She's the jury of League of Legends, okay? And they have to get her out. So if they can't get Katarina out, that tells me 8-10 characters. I'm guessing 8 though.
Yeah, well, we have to remember this is a tag fighter, right? If character size is very important here. If you just have the same 8 characters constantly, it becomes very, very boring.
Well, okay, there's one way I can hedge my bets here, kind of like option selected a
Uh
little,
oh.
and that's the depends on how fast they're going to release characters afterwards, right? Because League of Legends actually, for a certain amount of time during this was I guess actually it was before season 1. They released characters every 2 weeks with 2 skins, actually, I remember. Then they dropped that down to only 1 skin, like one
Mhm.
extra skin. And then they were like, "No, we can't do this anymore." And now they release it when they're ready,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So, if for Project L, oh sorry, 2XKO, they're gonna do the same thing where they release characters really fast. I don't expect every 2 weeks. That would be absolutely insane.
Absolutely
But,
insane.
like 1 every 2 months or maybe a little bit less, right? Like a month and a half. Then I could see them dropping the base roster a little, right? Like you can come out with 8 characters if you say, "Oh, but by the end of the year is gonna be 16 character, or actually more than that." You know.
Yeah. I, bro, I just
So that's one thing that
I don't
again
see
option
it.
selected. Like if they're gonna do that, then sure, the base roster can be smaller. But maybe a better way of saying it this is then I believe in the course of the first year they're gonna end up with about 14 to 16 characters. That's my guess.
I mean,
Okay, yeah.
it-
I'm in that same boat if we are taking that angle,
I
right?
don't
If they're going to release like that, I wanna lower it to like 10.
I don't think it's a big deal though, because since it's free to play, and technically as a free to play game, they don't want to have too much content, guys, on launch, right? So even if it launches with 8 characters, say worst case scenario, 8 characters for a tag fighter, it won't be 8 fighters for long. You know, they've already confirmed that you'll be able to grind and unlock all the characters for free if you don't want to spend money, and if as long as it comes at a constant rate. I don't know how fast Valorant was on their content release. Mir, do you know?
No, actually, I'm not that sure offhand.
But Valorant's got a lot of new legends that they added now too. So I feel like in a year's time it'll be in a good spot. I'm just kind of a little more concerned about their single player content actually. For launch, we'll see how they handle that. But they just, like I said, they just kind of figured out that they wanted this game to be a tag fighter. There's already been tons of reworks. Like I said, Jinx they have to rework because she was technically in a different style fighting game, and Ahri has been reworked where she used to have kind of like a stock system. So, and Katarina, we've seen gameplay of her, and she won't even be on launch. I don't know. That tells me 8-10. But I mean, like I said, the end number is not really important as long as there's enough variety with their fuse system and combo system to keep people engaged as they add more characters. And like I said, people don't feel cheated because they have to spend money to get a bigger roster that they wanted in the first place for a tag fighter. So we'll see what happens. I'm very, very curious. Yeah. Any final thoughts, guys, on this game?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of character designs are pretty good. But
Okay.
I will say Ari does not make sense to me. I think I
What?
think the studio needs to look at Ari and really
Again.
make her stronger. Yeah, again. I think they need to make her stronger than she currently is.
Uh-oh.
She does not fulfill the function she's set to do.
Okay.
Um, but I am actually very surprised with how good a lot of these characters feel. They are very fleshed out for an alpha. My main concern is just Ari
I didn't
and the
say it,
fact
guys.
that
Haps did. I'm not complaining about Ari. I'm fine.
and the fact that in the alpha, people already decided that Yasuo and Echo were super strong, and
I mean,
we
I
just
think it's
kept running.
pretty obvious at this point. Yeah, they're definitely at the
Yeah,
top. Tier list video.
we just kept running into those two.
That's
So
the
that's
sweat
something.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe somewhere the team needs to look at too. You know, maybe normalizing those
Yeah, I
characters a
think
little bit.
no, the balance I doubt would be an issue this early on
Sure.
in the development of the game. Like as in, it was expected to be unbalanced, and in fact, I'm pretty sure that on their thingy talking about the 2XKO Alpha Lab, they straight up said it's gonna be imbalanced. So, like they're managing expectations. At
Yep.
least they're not. They even said that it was going to be unpolished, which, for all intents and purposes, I feel like actually they reached a decent level of polish, all things considered.
Yep.
But no, my biggest thing about this game is I'm really curious about the pipeline post-launch, like we were talking about. Um, how often are characters going to be released? Which characters are going to be released? And how they're going to implement different archetypes in the game, because we know right now there's people have been looking at the game files, and they kind of like saw that there's other archetypes that are listed already that are not present in game. So obviously they're going to expand with like other characters like zoners and stuff, and which I fully expect.
Yeah.
But in League of Legends, there's a lot of characters. Oh, I guess there's another thing to add to this. But in League of Legends, there's a lot of characters, like a lot of champions. Offend, I don't remember how many there are, but it's like almost 200, I think. So
It's insane.
the roster is basically infinite, but there's plenty that would be really difficult to implement in a fighting game, right? Especially giant characters or like non-humanoid characters. and
Aurelian
stuff.
Soul and
Um, Yeah, there's people asking for these characters. They're like, oh, so far all the characters in 2XKO are just dudes and gals, right? So like,
Yeah.
just give us something more interesting, more different, because League of Legends does have the opportunity for those sort of characters. I think
Yes.
they can start with the kind of like monster people characters, like Cassiopeia. I think would be a great example. That's the Snake Lady, right? That petrifies opponents.
Like Medusa,
that would
yeah.
be that'd be kind of interesting for sure. And then maybe they could have some of the more like quirky characters, like I don't know if Nautilus would fit on the screen. So
Dude,
maybe not.
Nautilus is like a titan. Yeah.
Oh, Blitzcrank, right? Like robots again.
Oh, Blitz, yeah.
Blitzcrank.
New
For
bot.
sure. I'm curious what they're gonna do with that, but I want to see how they're gonna tell us what's coming, and are they going to do the unthinkable and add a character that's not in League of Legends?
Oh no. A Valorant character? Valorant guest
Yeah,
character?
maybe not a Valorant character, but just like a unique character.
They might.
XKO, and then they're gonna put that in League of Legends afterwards.
Give us Luke. Put Luke in this game. That'd be hype.
I'm a fan.
It'll be Terry. Terry, guest character. Terry. Another guest. Oh man. Okay, so my final thoughts on this, and this is like the world's smallest violin, guys. Let me tell you a story, okay? I covered this game. I was one of the earliest to cover this game before we even seen it. Whatever. I was on the rumor train during Rising Thunder. I'm like, dude, I am so hype for a League of Legends fight. And I was playing League of Legends back then too. This was like over 5 years ago. And fast forward to now. Remember we had it was like a fake leak that was going to be a platform fighter, and everyone was losing their minds. Oh my god, it's RIP. It's over. It's a platform fighter. Looking back on it now, I kind of wish that it was a platform fighter.
Oh,
and the reason is because what Mir was talking about, where I feel like there's going to be certain legends that they just simply can't have in the game because of their size and because it's just too crazy. But for a platform fighter, they can have any character. They could do any character. It would work. They would still have the co-op, and the platform fighters can be very accessible as well with high skill ceiling. The Yordles, Tristana, they can have Corki. They can have the big titans too, like Aurelian Soul and Nautilus. It's and all the just crazy characters, but they're playing the roster really safe right now. And the fact that it's the handshake tag system, like, which I didn't like about MVCI. There's like everything about this game trying to push me away personally on the things that I personally don't like. And like I said, my first impression wasn't good, but I tried to stay as open-minded as I could. I gave it another shot. I labbed. I took the FGC's advice, and I played Duel with Haps. And the first night we played Duel, bro, it was a nightmare. Haps didn't do his homework, and I watched this guy, no exaggeration, drop his B&B for 4 hours straight. 4 hours straight. Just watching go A-B drop. And I'm like losing my mind. And then when I'm the one playing Ahri, every time I landed a hit with Ahri, Haps would call his assist at the wrong time and make me drop my combo for 4 hours straight. Bro, I was tested. The FGC tested me to like see if I would like this game or not. But we ran it back, we labbed it hard, and we coordinated, and I had a lot of fun, man. I see the mechanics now. I've been watching tournaments, the handshake tag. I get it. It's different, and I think it's cool. It's different, and now I am more on board than I was before I played the game. So in the end, the alpha lab it's good that I was able to play it. I think it would have been would have had a more negative outlook if I didn't actually get my hands on this game and I just watched it. But yeah, man, I am excited for there's no character in the game right now that I'm like super hype about. I just really want to play like Katarina or adding like Tryndamere and getting some of the characters that I personally played in League and want to play. For me, that would get like if they announce like a character like Tryndamere or something, I'm all in. I'm like, dude, while we're playing this. But until then, I'm not 100% on it. But yeah, it was interesting hearing your guys' thoughts. So yeah, let's wrap this up, man. That's another episode done, guys. And dude, we haven't even figured out the name of this show yet. But by the time you guys see this, we probably will. So yeah, that was fun. Chat and YouTube, let us know your thoughts on all of this and what you guys think of the game looking in, or if you had a chance to play it yourself. And now we got a good baseline to come back to when we get another alpha or beta test as this game comes closer to launch and more characters get announced. And we can discuss it in the future. It was a lot of fun, guys.
Please give me a key next time. I want to have a key.
Good night, guys. Good night. Bye-bye.